time to join us for this webinar on consultant opportunities. Originally posted as an event for UK medical consultants. I can see there's a few people joining us from across the world, which is fantastic. There will definitely be a few things that you can pick up in the call, but it will be quite heavily UK based. But please keep in mind all your questions and stay in touch, and we'll be able to support you along the journey. My colleague Juliana Mendez is going to be joining me potentially at some point, so I hope to see her soon. But you are with me for the time being. So if I can get a few thumbs up or a few hellos from anyone else that is here with me tonight, that would be fantastic. And we will, I think I'm going to start maybe at 5:05, if that's okay, just to let everyone else that is joining catch up, and we can really go through the slides and go from there. But great to see so many people coming on board, and obviously very interested in Ireland. You may be thinking, this guy doesn't have a very Irish accent, and that is because I'm very English, but my wife is Irish. So I have happily moved from the UK, originally Exeter, down in Devon in the southwest of the UK, to the southeast of Ireland. I'm here in Waterford, otherwise known as the sunny southeast. So if anyone needed a few tips on spotting sunshine in Ireland, I've got plenty. So please keep a few countries coming in if there's anyone else from anywhere other than the UK. If anyone knows this picture that we're starting off with, extra points if you visited, or if anyone has visited Ireland already, or if you have friends or family working here, also please let us know. It's always great to connect the dots. Fantastic. Okay, well, I think what we can do is enjoy sort of going through these slides. I know a lot of you are busy and have busy schedules, so again, thank you so much. Very well done. Yeah, Cliffs of Moher is right. I'm going to aim to try and talk around 2 minutes per slide, just to make sure that you have a good overview and a good general understanding of what we are here to do and support you with opportunities and the move to Ireland, hopefully from the UK or anywhere else. I know, Anna, you'll be coming from the US, but we will hopefully have lots of really interested people joining us from all over as well. So as I was introducing myself, my name is James Fleming. I am one of the senior recruitment consultants here at Match Medics. I do specialize in psychiatry, radiology, and pathology. And my colleague Juliana Mendez, she would specialize in medicine and all the subspecialties that go along with that, as well as obs and gynae. Oh, Ju, well done.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I had some technical issues here.
Absolutely fine. You've joined us at the right time. Everyone was getting very ready for me to stop talking anyway. So Ju and I will be tic-tacking on all the slides. And Ju, I just introduced myself, and please fire away, and we'll go with the flow.
Sure. So I'm Juliana Mendes. I am originally from Brazil. I moved to Scotland. I used to live in Scotland. I used to live in the UK. Before moving to Ireland, I lived there for 4 years, so I have a good understanding about changing countries. I have changed a few times myself. I am the recruiter responsible for medicine, all the subspecialties, obs and gyn, and anesthesia as well. So it will be a pleasure to talk to each one of you individually after our webinar.
Yeah, and just to set the scene and make sure everyone is aware, our colleagues, who I'm sure some of you already know, Graham Cosgrave, Lisi Schaefer, Kia George, and Nora Harney, we all look after the subspecialties across the medical consultant industry. So we have a lot of experience under our belts and I have genuinely helped hundreds of doctors at this stage to move successfully to Ireland. So just because Drew and I have our subspecialties here tonight, we will be able to help you in all capacities. As I was saying, we're hopefully going to run through this in a nice speed. And if there are any questions, please just use the chat. We will have time at the end to hopefully come back to those. And if there is any key things that we've picked up or missed, we can definitely try our best to answer them on the night. Drew, was there anything else or any other pieces for housekeeping tonight?
No, I was just going to say exactly that, to just drop the questions in the chat box there, and we will be able to answer at the end of the webinar.
Yeah, fantastic. Excellent. Well, we will be having a look at all of these subheadings here tonight. So the itinerary would be as follows.
Yeah, we will start with the life in Ireland. So everything related to houses, schools, banking, the community here as well. Then we will start talking about the healthcare system in Ireland, which I think everybody's curious about it as well, and how it compares with the NHS in the UK.
Excellent. And we're definitely going to be speaking about the registration process, which will be, the first big hurdle to overcome, and what changes if you have CCT or a CSER certificate for your specialist training, realistic timelines and how to avoid a few pitfalls along the way. And then we will be taking a nice deep dive into earning potential. And we have two fantastic guest speakers with us tonight in Monica and Mairead, who will be talking to you about tax and pensions from both the UK side and the Irish side of things as well.
Yes, and then we will finish up with why us. So where we add the value to the CVs, interviews, the services that we provide to the doctors once they get the job here. So we have an amazing compliance team that helps with everything related with the relocation. So finding schools, accommodations, and everything needed to make the process as easy as possible to everyone moving to Ireland.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, we want to just ask everyone if you could let us know, why are you here with us tonight? It could be as simple as lifestyle or salary or family. There's lots of different motivations and reasons for people wanting to move. So if you could just let us know in the chat box, that'd be fantastic. And Drew and I can have a pretty good idea of what to expect. It should be easy for most of you to come through. Yeah, lifestyle is a really common one, and Drew and I definitely speak to a lot of consultants every week, and I think overworked and probably underpaid is two of the main reasons. Would you say that, Drew?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, another reason would be salary as well. So I think hematologist there, we can talk. I am the recruiter for hematology. We can talk. We can definitely talk later. Yeah, salary I think is one of the main points I would say when I'm talking to UK consultants. We have a lot of UK consultants moving to Ireland. So yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. What I'm going to do is we'll keep moving forward as we do try and cover all of the points that we come up with regularly, and I know a lot of you will be here to sort of hear about and understand in more detail. So moving forward and talking to you about life in Ireland, definitely from Drew and I's perspective as people that have lived in the UK. For any of you that haven't visited Ireland, does have fantastic airports and access across the board. So there is regular links to the majority of all airports in the UK, from Dublin, Cork, Shannon, Knock, Belfast. Even, Belfast and Dublin are not that far apart, so you can pick up flights from anywhere really. There would be an exceptionally high amount of traffic between the UK and Ireland classically. To give you a good insight, I was taking a lot of ferries from West Wales to Rosslare. And I can recommend it. I'd also recommend a cabin if you are going to make that route. But we find that there's lots of common routes, and some people do travel back to and from the UK quite regularly.
True. And the Ireland is quite small. We have only a small population compared to the UK, so it's 5.5 million, 1.2 million living in Dublin or around Dublin. So we have much more to explore, outside the big cities as well. I always say, for me, I come from a big country, so even Dublin is not as big, as a big city, but I consider that all the places, all the cities with a hostel here in Ireland, it is a big enough with all the amenities and all the infrastructure that you would have in a big city anyway. And then when it comes up with accommodation, even the lifestyle, sometimes, being right outside the big cities can be a good option as well. So Ireland, the furthest that you can go from Dublin will be a 3 hours driving. So 3 hours to Donegal in the border with Belfast, and then we have Kerry in the south of Ireland. So that's the two, the two. How do I say that?
Furthest points.
Furthest point of Ireland, exactly. So, and then it's only 3 hours to Dublin. So we have a lot of hostels within 1 hour and a half from Dublin, from Cork, So we always say keep the options open, because Ireland can definitely surprise you. It's very beautiful, especially outside the big cities, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And just to add on the accommodation piece, you will read there is a housing crisis in Ireland. But just to put this into perspective, I personally supported 5 consultants this summer that have all made the move to Ireland in different locations. All did find accommodation either before or within 2 weeks of actually being in the country. And we do specialize in support, so we'll talk about that a bit later. But the other big things to consider and think about if you're moving with families certainly is the schools and education. My wife is a primary school teacher, and in a former life I was also a teacher in the UK, so I can speak quite happily and openly on this. And the Irish education system and the way in which schooling is done here is a breath of fresh air compared to the UK. There's not really the same pressure as an Ofsted, which any of you who have kids currently in schools in the UK will definitely know about. So it's quite a different pace and understanding of how schools and education work and operate. You do have a private system as well, much like the hospital system, which you can access. Most of the schools here and education are free, which also includes university fees. If you schooled and finished your A levels, or what we call your leaving cert in Ireland, you do have access to all the universities in Ireland free of charge. So that is another very big bonus for families coming across with thinking about tuition fees, certainly coming from the UK. And Ju, I know you were going to mention sort of just the bank accounts there and the finance options.
Comparing to the UK, we have fewer options here in Ireland. So we have AIB, Bank of Ireland, and we have Revolut as well, which is the easiest one, I would say. I closed my bank account with AIB, and now I just use the Revolut. so works perfectly. And then, like, once we get you the job and we start all the paperwork, the compliance team will be able to help you opening the bank account, getting the tax number as well. So we don't need to worry about that.
Yeah. And lastly, just to sort of give you a very good idea of the sports and the communities, I'm sure a lot of you will know that Ireland has a rich culture in music and food and art, and that is very much alive across all of the communities that you'll go to. I live in a village, and there's live music in the two pubs every weekend here. But the sports that you would know and love in the UK and around the world, your soccers, your rugby, hockey, cricket, for some of you out there, all played here. But the biggest sort of shock to me, the real community sport here and the real sort of difference between Ireland and the UK is that Gaelic hurling and the Gaelic Athletic Association, GAA, that is in every single village across the country and is completely amateur. And you will get 80,000 plus people turn up to semi-finals and finals throughout the country. So that is something that's always quite, I don't know, you never really appreciate until you get here. Isn't that right, Ju?
Yes, definitely. And I think in terms of, a personal note, like I moved here nearly 6 years ago. I was in Scotland and I met my husband there. He's Irish. That's why I am in Ireland now. And I think the one thing that made such a difference for me is that the Irish people are so nice. They are so welcome. I really felt it very well here since the very beginning. I never had any problem at all. So I think, in my experience moving from the UK to Ireland, I feel that was definitely a good move and the right move for me. How about you, James? What do you think for yourself?
Well, definitely having married into Ireland as well. Everyone's very welcoming, even though I'm English. So you've got to think that's something to go off. So that's a very good sort of idea and overview of the comparison. The sort of the the likeness between the UK and Ireland really in sort of lifestyle. And this is where maybe it changes a tiny bit with regards to the overview of the Irish healthcare system and understanding the health services executive, which is the tax funded public health system here, and that difference between that and the NHS. It's very similar, and it's all about universal access to care. And we do have, a very good private system as well. So it does mean for consultants, there is very realistic options of being able to have a public contract within the HSE, the public system, and a private contract as well, if you were wanting to do that work. And there is still many that do that, but it's definitely, I've seen it fade out more so with the new contracts that have come in for consultants. Wouldn't you say that was the case, Drew, or have you seen that when you've been talking to consultants as well here?
Yeah, here in the country, in Ireland, we have like 47 HSE hostels across 6 different regions, and around 17 private hostels as well. And we do have the universal access for all, for all, and the waiting list is still a reality in both systems. um, but the consultants can be very influential in the service design, in the pathways improvement as well. To go to the GP, we normally have to pay. It's around I would say, depending of the GP, but between 50 to 60 euros. And then from there, if they refer you to see a specialist, it will be free. So you go through the public pathway, but you can also have, it's very common to have a private health insurance here. I have a private health insurance myself. It's a very good one, and I pay like 130 euros per month, with everything included. So I think that's something that is definitely worth to have for you and your family. Kids doesn't really pay to see a doctor here, right, James? I think up to 14, if I'm not mistaken here, kids can see a GP free of charge and then start the whole treatment, through the public pathway as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it's important to understand that obviously different areas of the country do have different levels of services and the ability to offer different care. So it is a universal approach, like I said, and depending on the population density, Dublin does have the highest population in the country. It has the highest amount of private hospitals, and it would have the biggest public hospitals as well. If you were coming to Cork, that would be Ireland's second biggest city. It would also share sort of a very similar footprint to Dublin. But private hospitals and premium health insurers across the country do have some of the leading care available, and they're normally working alongside the university hospitals. So that's probably one of the most important things to understand, that the majority of services would have that nucleus of a very big university hospital, for instance, Cork University Hospital or Galway University Hospital, and then there would be services in and around that to support the communities.
Yeah, and depending where you are going, the job description. I know a lot of doctors ask me for the job description. Just to explain a little bit how we normally work, James will talk more about that later. We are always talking to the doctors in advance of having the job the majority of the time, because we have the registration with the IMC, and we will be looking for a job that fits what you are looking for. So we always take in consideration what location you'd like to go, what kind of job, what kind of service you'd like to be working in. So that's why it's always important for us to have a first call to understand what you are looking for, so then we can go to the market looking for the right opportunity. Sometimes we have a job description, sometimes we don't have a job description, and we might find out more information during the interviews. But again, the interviews, I always say that interviews is practice. The more you do, the better you get, and it's also the opportunity for you to network with clinical directors and consultants here in Ireland that works in the same area as you. You don't need to travel to Ireland to do the interview. You do all the interviews online, and it's half an hour max. So that's normally how it works. We will try to give you all the details about the job before the interview, and that will depend what hospital you will be interviewing for and what job they have available.
Yeah, certainly. And it's really important to understand that the HSE do offer a public-only contract, which is a 37-hour contract for consultants. It's universal across sort of disciplines, so you would expect to see the same conditions. You could be in Dublin or Donegal, and that would be on the same scale and same the same opportunities with regards to added benefits and support would be there for the HSE. Depending on the private services that we work with, they do have different positions and roles, obviously, for you as consultants, that we do try and sort of maybe tailor towards what's going to work for you and also them. So there can be differences in the private system compared to the HSE, which is very sort of almost black and white with what to expect, but both offer fantastic facilities across the country and opportunities for you. Just moving into that sort of next big stage of understanding the registration process and the big hurdle here. I know, Drew, you were just going to talk to us about what.
So basically, I think for UK doctors, it's very straightforward. If you have CCT, it's straightforward. If you have scissors, The majority of the areas recognizes Caesars as a pathway for you to get the specialist registration here in Ireland. Um, but in the case of Caesars, it's always better to check before to not have any surprise there. But if you have CCT, it's straightforward. You just need to go to the IMC website, fill in with all your information. We have the list of documents that you need to translate if it's not in English, notarize it, open an account, attach all your documents, and pay the fee. Basically, that's the registration process for UK doctors. So it's very simple, and we can help with anything needed. Once you do that, it will take between 3 to 4 months for the registration to be active. But again, if you say, Juliana, I am available to move to Ireland as soon as possible, let's start the registration with the IMC, start applying to all the jobs. And if we get you a job and you accepted the offer, we can send your contract to the IMC, and they are very good at expediting the registration process. So that's normally how it works.
Yeah, we have had consultants sort of get their registration within a month. So if you are really looking at opportunities and very keen to come across quickly, then we can definitely support. I know there's a good question there, and there's a few coming through. It all depends on if you have that recognized specialist certificate. If you have CCT, or if you have a CSER that is currently recognized by the Irish Medical Council, it's easy. If it's not on the list, it becomes a very long pathway, but we can definitely talk to you individually and talk about that. So please bear that in mind. We've had plenty of experience now with everyone on either automatic pathways or the longer format pathways. So like Ju said, the best thing you can possibly do is probably, think in months instead of weeks with regards to registering and getting everything together and making sure that you are as prepared as possible for the joys of jumping through all the hoops with the paperwork, and we are there to support and help along the way as well. So always keep that in mind. Moving on, I believe we're now going to talk to sort of one of the biggest parts of what maybe many of you are here and want to know about and understand about, which is your earning potential. Okay, so as I was saying, the HSE, which is the public system here in Ireland, has a set pay scale grade for consultants. If you are just graduating your specialist training, you are going to be expecting to start on 233,000 euros a year. And with every year of experience in a public service, that's really important to note, because the HSE tend not to count private service as proof of work for some reason. But every year, going up to 6 years, you will be on 280,000 as a minimum for 37 hours per week, obviously per annum. And the main thing I think to stress here is that this is your base salary. There is on-call added on to all, yearly. Depending on the location and the area, again, you will have an additional minimum of 11,125 euros on top of your pay, your estimated salary. So that's something worth knowing and understanding as you're considering opportunities here.
Yeah, and we have the 12,000 euros for education and the 8,000 euros for innovation projects as well. I think
I know that's
yeah. Go ahead, James. Sorry.
I know it's a very, very big hook for a lot of consultants that didn't realize that you can take the 8,000 grant and use it to lump research and innovation with another consultant. I know that consultants have pulled their money together before, which you get yearly. So if you are very research based as well, that's a fantastic opportunity for you to continue that here in Ireland. And I also spoke to a consultant recently in Madrid who had used all of his continuous medical education allowance on going to every single congress across Europe within the 12 months. So it's worth knowing that you can do that and claim that back when needed. So, Jude, was there anything else to add there just on the HSE? I know we need to talk about the private.
The private, well. No, I think about the HSE, that's the salary for you to work 37 hours per week. So just to be clear, anything extra goes on top of that. And in terms of private hostels, it is a bit different because it's like you are a self-employed there. So the potential of earning will depend of your area of work. So for example, an orthopedic surgeon, a cardiologist, they would have probably a higher salary than other specialities. So it's a private sector, so it's all about the basically the money that you can make for the hostel. So then we can of course try to negotiate a great package. So and try to have like a safety as well, because with the private sector, for example, if you go on holiday for 1 month, you will not get paid, because you will get paid per patient, per surgery. If you are 1 month not working, of course you need to count your salary, your yearly salary, discounting the month that you are not working. So it's a bit, I think the math there is a bit different, but we can help you with that when the time comes. We do have very good opportunities in the private sector with a salary even higher than what the HSE can offer. So sometimes I speak to consultants that they just want private hostels, and sometimes I speak to consultants that they don't want to work in the private sector. They prefer to be in the HSE and have everything, the routine there, the package and everything set in stone. So basically that's normally how it works.
I think the key takeaway there is the private is a lot more flexible when it comes to negotiating salaries and contracts. The HSE is your sort of NHS. This is your contract, and you do get 40 days annual leave per year with the HSE here as well. So, and 5 days for continuous medical education training as well. So it is very good. Just to reference locum work very quickly before I introduce Mairead and Monica to you all, who are going to talk about tax. Locums, if you're a consultant locum working in a paid per hour capacity, it's the HSE currently have a set rate of 133 per hour, but our recruitment consultant Nora Herney, she will be able to talk to you about that in more detail if you are interested in doing locum jobs, coming over from the UK and going back to the UK. If that was something that you were thinking about, we can definitely have a good chat and talk to you about what that looks like as well. But what we're going to hopefully understand from both sides, from the UK and also from Ireland, is more about the tax and I'm going to introduce Monica to you all. Monica, I don't think we're going to be able to see you on the screen, but I believe you can hear us and you can comment on everything. Maybe you can't. And if that's the case,
we also have Mairead, and Mairead will then talk to you about the Irish tax system and what you can expect when you get here. So maybe we can start with Mairead, and then while we try to get Monica in.
Sure. Mairead, are you with us at all?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can. Thank you, Mairead. I will forward just through Monica's slides very quickly and move on to yours. So please let me know when you're ready to move.
Yeah, no, thanks very much, James and Juliana. And it's very interesting, actually, as an Irish person, listening to you both talk about Ireland, in the way that you are. And so look, delighted to be here. And so I'm the principal of Tax Key. We are a boutique tax practice. So we support businesses, we support individuals with tailored tax advice. So our work would incorporate advising people moving to Ireland from overseas, also individuals who are leaving Ireland to move abroad. And so, you know, we would have a lot of experience, all professionals across many different industries and sectors moving to Ireland from overseas, and looking at how the Irish tax system applies taxation to their various sources of income, whether they're the Irish sources of income, say through HSE employment, or they still might have overseas income, be it rental property in another country, investments, etc. So we work with individuals living in Ireland around all those taxes. So just if you want to move on to the next slide there, please, James. Thank you. So I've just done up a very high level slide, really. I suppose, you know, James and Juliana spoke about the HSC and the levels of salary pay grades that are there. So I suppose, you know, it's one thing to know the gross, but what does that mean from an after-tax perspective? So we just took as a starting gross annual salary of 260,000. So on that, the HSE will tax it through the payroll. There's income tax, that's 20% on ballpark the first 40,000 euro, and then there's a higher rate, 40% on anything over that. It's different where you're married for, say, a single person, and it can double for married couples, but then that depends on whether or not the spouse is also working. So if we just take a single person with normal personal tax credits, the tax burden on that would be 119,000, meaning that the take-home pay will be just over 140,000 as an estimate, to give you some figures to just to make it real for you. Just the next slide there, please. Thank you. So I suppose just some of the concepts to think about when moving to Ireland, so, and how your income will be taxed. So broadly, if you're going to be employed by the HSE, you will be paying Irish tax on that employment income. Where you have other sources of income, particularly maybe where you're, you know, whether overseas, you're going to have, you know, source of income in the country that you're coming from, or else where there is things to think about. Firstly, it's your domicile. Assuming you're coming to Ireland, you're not from here originally, you're not going to be Irish domiciled for a long time, but you will be tax resident. Once you're living here, once you're present in Ireland for about 6 months, 183 days in a tax year, and our tax year in Ireland is the calendar year. So 183 days in 1 year, or 280 days over 2 years, with at least 30 days in both years, you're going to be subject to, you're going to be treated as Irish tax resident, and that brings you within the scope of Irish tax for pretty much your worldwide income. Now, if you're taxed in another country, so say you've got a rental property in the UK, for example, you know, you'll be taxed in the UK on the profit of those rents. It comes within the Irish tax system, but there is double tax relief. So really important is, you know, that you've got an Irish advisor looking at how the Irish rules apply, and the double taxation agreement might apply between Ireland and the other country where the income arises. But also in the other country, it's really important that the advisors in both countries link up, so there is that consistent interpretation of the double taxation agreement. Just in terms of your employment income, there is a useful relief which is called split year relief, and that applies to employment income only. So say, for example, your HSE income, where you're treated as being tax resident from the day you arrive in Ireland. Normally where you're otherwise without split year relief, you're regarded as being tax resident from the 1st of January of each year, where you have that 183 days or 280 days over the 2 years. So if you're looking at moving into Ireland in the middle of a year, that can be useful. So certainly worth looking into and seeing how that can maybe reduce the tax burden for you in the year of arrival. There's strict rules about when it can be applied for. timelines around that, depending on when you arrive, when you start your employment. So just flagging it as something to look into if you think it might be relevant to you. Also, where you're moving from abroad and you're not domiciled in Ireland, you'll only be taxed in Ireland on income that is remitted into Ireland, so brought into Ireland. Now, there's some certain exemptions or exceptions to that rule for certain types of investments held in other countries. So where you would need to see that your overseas income and investments do come within the remittance basis. But where they do, you can really plan around what you can bring into Ireland without incurring tax. The timing of that is really important. And also, you know, if you may have time to plan. If you're thinking of moving next year, you know, you may not trigger Irish residence until the 1st of January 2026. That might give you a few months to see what your income outside of Ireland is, and give you time to plan around that. May make sense for you to sell certain investments or not, as the case may be, but it does give you that period of time to make those decisions. Just final slide then, please. So I've just popped into the slide here some useful links and contacts. You know, there's the revenue guidance, revenue website, revenue.ie has some good guidance. Citizens information is really good. Citizensinformation.ie has a lot of really useful information. It's government funded website, and it has a lot of explanations both from a tax perspective and a social welfare perspective in plain language. Really important when you do get set up with the Irish Revenue, you set up what's called a My Account, and on the social welfare side, for your social insurance contribution, a My Welfare account, and through those portals you can claim your tax credits and other reliefs that you may be entitled to. Say, for example, if you're renting here in Ireland where you're living, always important with taxes to keep your documentation, your employment contracts, any pay slips, any correspondence with the Department of Social Protection, any correspondence from the Revenue. Always hold on to it. Really, really important. So look, my contact details are at the end of the. I think they're in the next slide. If anyone has any specific questions, please do reach out, and I'll be delighted to go through it with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mairead. That's excellent. And you know, having had to go through the sort of the MyGov website myself, when you're setting up your tax credits and everything, it is so useful to have someone there to talk to. And I know, Mairead, you're an expert and a pro at it. So thank you so much for sharing that detail with us. Monica has joined us. I'm going to see if we can bring you back in and across. Hello.
Does it work? It works.
We're all working.
Hi.
Sorry.
Are we there?
We're there. Go for it.
We're there. Good. I'm like Mairead. It's quite interesting hearing you guys talk about Ireland, and I've done the opposite. I've left Ireland to come this way. Deeply envious at this point, to be honest. But I live in North Yorkshire now, which is the closest thing to Ireland I can find for greenness and countryside. Not quite right, but it's all right. So yeah, I work on the UK side of tax, which most of you are probably used to already. Being salaried, being taxed on pay as you earn. So your employer is dealing with all of that tax taken off you at source. Basically, the first 50,000 at 20%. And after that, it goes to 40%. Over £100,000, we lose our personal allowance, which is about £12,000 tax free. So once you get to 125,000 of earnings, you've got no allowances. You pay 20%, 40%, and then 45% effectively. What is different, I guess, going to Ireland, as you said before, Maria, there's various different rates going on there. We've got national insurance that you take in here. I don't know how that fits with the Irish side of things. We've got employers and employees national insurance being paid. It's our tax rates sound quite similar to yours, but we go to 45%, whereas you've got 40 at the top end. Residence is an absolute key thing for what we're discussing here, because UK tax residency, used to be quite simple. If you were out of the country more than you were in, you were non-tax resident. If you were in more days than you were out, it was the opposite, obviously. We have really, really tight rules now in terms of residency and how many days you go to the UK versus how many ties you've got in the UK. So it's quite a minefield if in any of your cases here you're planning to sort of hop back and forward from Ireland for weekends because the family are still based in the UK, if you've decided that you're not fully moving over there in the first place. It's really critical because if you've got ties in the UK, that can minimise your time going back to as little as 16 days a year in a tax year to maintain your non-residency. Even if you are, the residency side of things, even if you are a UK resident, as Marie had said before, you can be resident in both effectively at this rate. Helpfully, we have 2 different tax years. Ours runs the 6th of April to the 5th of April, not a calendar year, nothing that obvious. So we would tend to overlap in these 2 things, and we'll be estimating returns and so on. But that's where the double tax treaty, the treatment of it and the interpretation of it is critical. And having an accountant on, tax advisor on both sides of the water, effectively working together to make sure that both tax returns are correct, that we are being consistent across it, and that we are collaborating together. I think that's really critical for me with our clients that I deal with, foreign. I've got quite a few US clients here, and moving back to the US, I've got Germans, I've got Austrians. I think that the key thing in all of it is that collaboration between your 2 advisors. So though you don't need to know absolutely everything, you've got a really trusted sort of, trilogy of you and your 2 advisors working together for your benefit. And I think that's the key in all of this. You guys are all very, very heavily medically qualified. Maria and I deal with the numbers on the other side. So I think that's the key to all of this, is knowing that whatever you do, you've got 2 good accountants looking out for you on each side and keeping you straight on the tax front. And
thank you so much, Monica.
Yeah, hopefully that gives you an idea, but my slide will have the contact details as well if anybody wants to talk one-to-one afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to add, because, and Jules mentioned this previously, we try and make this as personable as possible for everyone that's interested in working in Ireland. And I've had so many conversations in the past with people that want to commute potentially from the UK to Ireland and have houses, and I've got consultants that do have properties back in the UK. So thank you so much for your time and letting us know. Monica and Raid's details are going to be shared with everyone. So I hope to see lots of you join us here in Ireland. But that's what, as a part of what we do try and make sure that we are giving you as much as possible to make everything as smooth as possible. And I think, this is our last slide, guys. So thank you so much for hanging in there and listening to what we wanted to share with you on everything Ireland. But where we add value and the feedback we get from all of the doctors that we work with is it's always about being that local champion for you. And that's not just in the job opportunities, by the way, that is in the accommodation. We write references, that is in schools. We can help put you in touch with the people that you need to be speaking to, and everything that goes along with making such a big life-changing move. We do not take these things lightly at all. And I know myself, Ju, and all of the team at Matchmatics really pride ourselves on supporting you throughout the whole process. Ju, do you want to, I know you've been doing some very good interview preparation sessions this week. So did you want to talk very quickly on the interview preparation that we put in?
Yeah, so basically, once we know, where you will be interviewing, we will help you to prepare. So we normally have like a video call, sometimes half an hour, sometimes 1 hour, as long as you need, for us to be able to help you, give you all the ins and outs, explain how it works, the interviews here in Ireland. I always say that interviews, they will be interviewing you, but you will also be interviewing the host to make sure that that's the right job for you. So we will support you and help you to prepare as best as possible before the interview. And if you have like 10 interviews in 10 different hostels, we can have 10 different interview preparations if that will be helpful for you. And yeah, and a part of that, of course, talking about, I think one thing that we didn't mention, we will also advocate on your behalf in terms of a timeline. I know that the majority of the UK consultants, you guys have probably 3 months notice. The hostels here, they are used to wait the 3 months notice or even longer for the right doctor. So we can definitely negotiate that. I think James mentioned as well about the contracts. We have a 6, 12 months contract. The majority of the hostels will end up extending the contract with the consultants as well. And I have a consultant that got initially a 6 months contract with Cork University Hostel. It's been 2 years and a half. Every 6 months, I send him a message and I'm like, do you need help finding another job? No, I'm still here in Cork. They will extend my contract. And the good news is that once they extend for the third year, so let's say you get a 12 months contract, they extend it to another 12. Once you go to the third contract, you become permanent automatically there. So that's normally how it works.
I was
Sorry,
just going
Jane.
to add to there, Ju. I was just going to add across the different disciplines, there's a lot of opportunity. If you are enjoying where you're living and working, there tends to be a lot of permanent job vacancies that they want you to apply for, where we specialize in introducing you to the services. And what we are referring to here with the contracts is something called a specific purpose contract, which is a full-time contract which has all the benefits that you would get and expect from being permanent, but it is just that set period of time until they either extend it or we want to push for permanent interviews. So we are here to give you the on CV. We review hundreds of CVs per week as a team, so we know what services are looking for, and we definitely try and detail and pull out your strengths across that. So it is making sure that you are as supported as well as possible, and within our partnerships, like you've seen with Mairead and Monica here tonight, we have accommodation partners, we have different people that are specialized in making things as easy for you as possible, because what we find and tend to hear is that if you do try and go it alone, and you can definitely apply for jobs off the back of adverts that you see directly, but there's always a big communication fail between doctor and HR. A famous story I have is one consultant got offered a job and then didn't hear anything for 7 months. So we spend our lives talking to HR, and we have very personal relationships with a lot of the services. So we want to make sure that you're aware that we are here to make sure everything goes as well as possible for you. So I think in a nutshell, Ju, that is everything that we have sort of been able to discuss.
Yeah.